Welcome back, everyone. It is another upper bracket series. It's Cowana Gaming facing off against Method EU.
I feel like I got deja vu. We're just seeing like the same series over and over and over. Okay, here we go. Cowana Gaming, they are going to be locking in the Ret Warrior Shaman as kind of predicted. And Method EU, it's going to be the Shadow Priest Fire Mage Paladin. So basically exactly what we just saw. And let's see how this one plays out. I'm curious to see if Method EU is going to have that same kind of dominance we saw from Skill Cap EU in that last game, or if Cowana Gaming has something else to say about it.
Yeah, we're going to see a little bit different builds here coming out as well. Tessia is going to be playing that Kindling as well, I'm pretty sure. I don't see any Meteor, but he is not playing that Adaptation Trinket, so he's going to be running just a regular Trinket here. Tana is running a Trinket as well, whereas Lontar was not playing with that Trinket. And we're going to see Tessia actually landing a Polymorph here onto Tana right away. They could set up onto him if they want to, but Kara is in position to dispel a stun if he needs to. And Tessia is just going to be the target of choice here, taking big damage, immediately trinketing and using that soul shape to get out and get back to safety. So already Cowana Gaming not afraid to go after the mage a little bit more. And I think that was the mistake as well that we saw in that previous series. The mage was just too free to do whatever he wanted. Now we're going to see Chaz and a Hammer of Justice. Zuniaki actually master spells that. They get a sheep onto Nerd Rage, and they're going after Kara here once again. Matchup looking a little bit more controlled and a little bit slower than what we saw in the previous setup.
Pre-parry here by Nerd Rage on the combustion, anticipating a lot of damage. I think it's more than fair. Now blasting down Zuniaki in a stun lock, a War Stomp for follow-up, trying to get some good measure. There was no sacrifice from Chaz, so just trying to clutch out a burst kill. I like that Kara retreats back to the pillar while his Shaman is in crowd control, but they actually walk into a double ring. Nerd Rage isolated, mind control. Kara rolls over, rebukes the mind control. Nerd Rage and a Polymorph, and Kara and Nerd Rage, their strategy is just attacking whoever is closer to Tana. So going after Zuniaki's most push forward, they don't have to overextend as much, rather than just only targeting the Shadow Priest. And they're also playing a little bit more defensive, with, as we see Kara retreating back to the pillar a little bit more often as well. Chaz getting gripped in here for a Hammer of Justice. That was an interesting play by Zuniaki. Maybe trying to punish the Dispel of the Restoration Shaman and go for a clutch kill, but it doesn't net too much damage. There's no combustion available. Thasia is just launching out fireballs, trying to reset that combustion, and see if they've met. Are they copying the same build? Are they running the Kindling? It looks like they are going to be running the cooldown reduction build. No Meteor, so Thasia is just going to be trying to farm combustions as much as possible.
He's actually not playing that, believe it or not. He's playing Pyroclasm, so he's going to be fishing for those insane Pyroblast procs. And if he can get the hard cast Pyroblast off, he can pop Combustion at the very end of it and literally kill someone 100-0 by himself instantaneously. But it's very difficult to pull off. First of all, you need the proc, but if he can get it, and Chaz can throw in an Aura Mastery, he can end the game by himself with no help from anyone else. So just going to be fishing for that over and over and over. And of course, a little bit less consistent damage than that Kindling short combust build, but it in a matchup that can go long like this, all you need is one to win the game.
Yeah, but it's interesting. He's not playing the what's it called, Alexstrasza's Fury for the extra damage, so he actually won't one-shot 100%. You see there, he actually, I'm pretty sure he got it off there, because what you want to do is you want to get the proc, then you want to hard cast a Pyro, and then at the end of your cast, you want to get that Pyro off, and I'm pretty sure he just did the combo right there, but he doesn't actually have one-shot damage because he's missing one talent that increases the damage of his Pyro by, like, I think 35% or something like that. So he's not going to be able to do the full 100 to 0, but if he can get that combo off on somebody else that's like 80% or so, or even in deep dampening, he can create enough pressure to cause a win. So it's going to be interesting to see how this build is going to work out, because we've seen it a lot on ladder and things like that, but I don't think we've actually seen anyone pull this off in competitive.
Greater Pyro. He's trying to bring it back. Kara's isolated, silenced, can't heal. Mind games. This is where Kara could break a Polymorph out of the silence with a Word of Glory. It looks like he's opting to try and just heal through the mind games, but struggling a bit. Tana's going to Trinket Spirit Link outside of the window there. That was a Dragon's Breath, not wanting to risk it, but there wasn't really any damage to close out the game there. So getting Medallion out of the way definitely opens up options here for Method EU in terms of targets they want to go after. And they seem to be consistently punishing the Dispel of Tana. If he dispels a Polymorph, they use Hammer of Justice on the Ret Paladin immediately. And this could be a good way of running the Shaman out of mana. But now Chaz is stunned up. They could swap over to the healer for a moment. Mass Dispel comes in from Zuniaki, and he's going to be removing that. And this is going to feel like a completely different game, even though these are the exact same compositions, because of Deja's decision to play that Pyroclasm and run that big Pyroblast. It means that Kara and Nerd Rage almost at all times need to be worried about it, because if they just miss it for even a second, they're going to die, which is why they're playing more passive. I mean, look at Kara. He's not even in melee range of a target. He's not going anywhere near this potential Pyroblast that Deja is fishing for. Nerd Rage pummels it. Is Kara going to move in and try and help Nerd Rage? Maybe give an intervene target? Kara is very reluctant to leave the pillar here. He does not want to cut the apron strings of his Shaman at the moment. Zuniaki down at half, managing to recover. Earthen Wall is down, but Kara's not in it. Mind Games, stun on Kara. Chaz is charging in, not able to find a target. I guess Kara was justified in this defensive posturing, as they were trying to look for a setup, and now they set up on Nerd Rage and a Hammer of Justice. Combustion. Nerd Rage trades. Trinket die by the sword and survives the exchange.
See, combustion damage feels a lot better than fishing for those Pyroclasm procs. We'll have to see if it ends up working out, but I just feel like if the enemy team is prepared for it, it is incredibly difficult to pull off, so I'm not sure I'm the biggest fan. Tana's going to be doing a great job there, pre-flesh crafting the incoming Dragon's Breath, avoiding the Polymorph, but for how long? Finally, a full Polymorph does land, but it looks like Kara immediately just hiding, running behind the pillar. He realizes he's the main target, and if most of that Polymorph fades by the time Kara gets out, he's going to be A-okay. Swap now over onto Tana, but an intervene from Nerd Rage should keep Tana alive, and that was the Astral Shift as well. So getting some cooldowns, but ultimately great positioning from Kara allows him to survive during the setup. Tana in a silence. Method EU right now, they're all over the place, but there's just not the damage to force the Divine Shield. Sacrifice actually trades out by Chaz. Cowana Gaming is looking to strike back.
Yeah, actually, Cowana Gaming, this is kind of the situation they want to be in. As soon as they get to that deeper portion of dampening, they don't want to get too deep in dampening, but they want to get deep enough to where they can just go in and press Wings Divine Toll on somebody and potentially cause so much pressure that it just pushes somebody over here. They're going to get a Dragon's Breath Sheep here onto Tana. Kara, already with an excellent defensive positioning, is going to just stay behind the pillar, heal himself, and heal Nerd Rage as well. And Zuni opting not to even use his Fear right there, realizing that it's not going to amount to too much due to that defensive positioning. And now they're going to go after Kara here. He gets immediately dispelled right there on the Psychic Horror of Zuniaki. So very nice reflexes there. Now they get a Hammer of Justice onto Chaz, Sheep onto Kara, Counterspell onto Nerd Rage, and now they're going after Kara here. Big damage coming in. The Shadow Crash comes in as well, and Divine Shield going to be overlapped there for Kara with his Protection Legendary right there. And now Kara, with those wings active, wants to go and get aggressive here. Nerd Rage is in Ray stance. Zuni could be in a lot of trouble. Teleport. Was that a Void Elf teleport? What was that? That was not a Door of Shadows. I'm pretty sure that was a Void Elf.
Zuniaki's a Void Elf.
Okay.
He wants to get a little bit of extra mobility. So, I mean, against a Ret Paladin, I think the Void Elf is a good way of trying to escape the incoming attackers. And if you don't expect it, maybe you pre-Void Elf a stun too. At the moment, Chaz is stunned. Kara's charging in. Mass Spell Fake out by Zuniaki, removing that crowd control on Chaz. They should more than easily be able to heal through this. Now they're trying to set up for damage. Intervene Reflect there, but silenced on it. Not able to do too much as Sanctuary removes the silence. Kara retreats back to the pillar for a moment. Deja still trying to get to that combustion window. 24 seconds to go. Kara is smacking him, though, as we see the Freedom active. Deja is trying to retreat. A Dispel punish on Kara once again. I like that play in this position with no Divine Shield. Almost clutching a kill. They get the Protection Paladin Legendary, the Shield of Vengeance. That was a very important play. Punishing that Vampiric Touch Dispel and then stunning the Ret, which crowd controls both targets. There's some interesting, unique, and kind of cheekiness to this Shadow Priest Mage that we did not see in the last matchup, but will it actually work? I feel like the previous build that Mara was running was just flat value, whereas this one is kind of trying to be a little bit flashy, and sometimes flashy is not the best in these high-pressure situations.
Yeah, I mean, hasn't really gotten too much value out of it, but if it does end up winning the game, we'll have to see. Here's the combustion, big damage on Kara. They're actually just reversing the pressure immediately here onto Zuniaki. And Tana in the back line throwing in the healing waves does manage to semi-stabilize his team. It looks like he will be able to hold on. 50% health still on Kara. Big damage incoming. Deja blinks in, looking for a polymorph. Finds it on Tana. Nerd Rage with a beautiful, intimidating shout. Slows down Deja, slows down Zuniaki for the time being. And it looks like Kara getting out of line of sight should be more than okay to survive. And this is normally how we see this matchup. Big Pyroblast coming in from Deja. But Nerd Rage just shrugs it off. It didn't do anything. I really don't like this build. I think, honestly, Deja probably doesn't like it either. We'll end up seeing him switch in the next game, regardless of the result. Spiritling Totem does drop down. Tana just forced to trade cooldowns. And this is kind of how the game goes. The Shaman's looking really good, but at a certain point in dampening, the Earth Shield and the Riptide just aren't enough healing. And they just don't have the single target healing to keep their team alive. They really have to rotate through those defensive cooldowns. But I'm really getting nervous here for Cowana Gaming. They don't have many tools left.
Yeah, and Tessia's going to have that combustion as well coming back up. I really would have liked to see him go for the Alex Strauss's Fury as well. Go full all in if you're going to go with this build. Bank on landing that one Pyro. As it stands right now, his damage is actually so low that he doesn't actually kill them with those Pyros. And here we go. Here comes just a regular combustion here. They get a nice disarm there onto Tana. They proc the legendary here. And Kara running around the corner here, trying to do what he can. And using that Shield of Vengeance as well, trying to keep himself alive. Still some crowd control, but now finally Tana is going to be coming out of that CC. Kara here, looking for the interrupt, not able to find it. Full sheep secured. Tana trinkets, dispels Kara. And Kara actually using his Divine Shield as well. Big defensive overlap, and all of a sudden Method EU are in a checkmate position. Kara still so dangerously low. He can't lead that pillar here. Tana has so much work ahead of him, and while they're doing this, Zuniaki is getting all of his dots up, running onto Nerd Rage. Shaz is drinking. Here comes the battle stance. Here comes the damage. Shaz forced to stop his drink, trades out the Blessing of Protection, and now since Kara had to leave the pillar without even recovering fully, once again Shaz can just threaten to drink. And Kara and Tana, they're forced to sit back here. Nerd Rage leaping in to stop the drink. Immediately Blade Storms there to avoid getting stunned behind that pillar with a Hammer of Justice. Very nice play there by Nerd Rage, stopping the drink and immediately coming back out. But still, you can definitely feel how Cowana Gaming are just on the back foot. And that defensive overlap is going to be super key moving forward, Sid.
All right, let's see if they can punish it here. 3 minutes on the clock for that Divine Shield still. They could even go after Nerd Rage with no parry. Tana and Dragons with Kara. Trinkets into a silence. Intervene. Overwatch Reflect by Nerd Rage, stopping the Polymorph chain. But now Frost Nova behind the pillar, trying to find a Ring of Frost pummeled on it. Kara is getting pincered by Zuniaki and Chaz. Big hammers down Polymorph. This could easily be it. Rallying Cry not looking like it's enough. Kara at 10%, and it will not hold on. Method EU pull off victory. They're trying to go after Thasia. No, they're going to tap out here. Tana tapped out, but Nerd Rage is still trying to chop him up. I don't think he's going to be able to close this out. However, I mean, Chaz was out of mana, so had they not made that overlap earlier on, there was potential. So I don't think Thasia should continue playing this build, especially on the small maps. Maybe, though, on the large maps, it would work out for them to stop. They would never be able to push, right? You'd be able to drink and reset. I feel like it could work on the big maps if he runs, like Zico was saying, Alex Strauss's Fury and goes all in. But on small map, I don't want to see this hardcast pyro build.
I would rather just see the kindling build, to be honest.
Just combust. Every time you use combustion, they were scared, horrified, running behind the pillar. You just get that more often, as opposed to just fishing for this thing. It's a miracle. You don't need the miracle. You just need the combustion. That's it. I mean, that's their win condition in this game. If they can just survive to this point, Tana has no option. We've seen this matchup play out over and over and over again, and this is how it always plays out. Besides the last series, that was a bit weird, but this one is normally how we see it play out. Tana just kind of falls behind on healing. Kara, he's isolated on the other side of the map by himself. Deja looking for, I believe he actually finds a full polymorph here, and at this point there's absolutely nothing Kara can do. He just doesn't have the cooldowns, and without those cooldowns, the Shaman just cannot heal through this type of pressure. It was close on mana, but even when it is close on mana, this seems like the Shadow Priest Mage just always wins this matchup.
So what adjustments then, if any, can Cowana make if they want to make this matchup go in their favor? Do you think that Method EU just has the better comp in this situation then?
It's been 4 weeks of this, right? It's been 4 weeks of Ret
true.
Warrior Shaman losing to Shadow Priest Mage Paladin. So you either just go into the series knowing you're going to lose, or you make some sort of comp adaptation or some sort of talent adaptation, something. But it doesn't seem like there's new strategies really being used, so I'm not insane, so I expect the same result we've been seeing over and over and over. Honestly, I feel like this is going to be a 3-0 for Method EU unless Cowana Gaming kind of mix it up and spice it up a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly a difficult matchup for these guys. You know, Cowana Gaming, very strong team, very strong roster, so it's kind of unfortunate when you see situations like these where it's just not a good matchup for them, Zico.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know. Smaller maps are going to help them, but I don't know. I'm not convinced. I feel like as Shadow Priest Mage, there's so many ways for them to actually win the game. They got healer setups. They can get crowd control chains. They can drag the game late to dampening, and either of those win conditions, if they are able to find those, they just automatically win. We even saw them go for mind controls and then use Blessing of Protection on Paladins to prevent them from being able to use bubbles, just to put them on forbearance. They actually used Chaz's Blessings of Protection just to take down, I think it was Draenor on Paladin, but we've seen them use that strategy as well. So there's just so many ways for them to win the game. And I think in that last game, it just kind of becomes impossible for Cowana Gaming to win it in dampening because of the map. Like you have, Kara and Tana sitting back at the pillar trying to recover from the setup, while Nerd Rage has to go in and stop the drink. When he does that, he drops super low. He has to go back, and then when he's back, then Kara has to be the one stopping the drink, and then he gets caught up. And at some point when Tana has to cover the whole map, he's going to get caught up in a Dragon's Breath into a polymorph, and they're going to be able to win the game. So, I expect more of the same, and I expect Tessia to swap from that big Pyroblast build to maybe a Meteor or Kindling on this map.
All right, we've got both compositions locked in here. We all are also going to be going to Hook Point. How do we feel like this changes, if anything, like the length of the game, Supatis? Do you think that Method U is going to be able to close this one out a little bit earlier, or do you think that they're going to be relying on dampening once again?
I think if Thasia runs the more standard build, they can definitely win before dampening. I guess if he got really lucky and nobody stopped it, but it seems like there's a lot of ways to premeditate it. I think they were just banking on Cowana Gaming not expecting it, which fair enough. Like, it's a blind pick. They just saw the Mage Shadow Priest not doing that. Like, this isn't a build that's particularly standard, so kind of play it by ear and fish out a game one. Maybe just get the game one victory so you don't lose the blind pick advantage. So I mean, I don't mind them experimenting, and they can show that it's a threat. But now on small maps, I definitely don't think they should. We'll have to wait and see if they decide to. But we've seen that if you can get good setups on the Ret Paladin, that you can definitely close the game out early. It seems like to me, I can't give it a fair assessment until I get to see Thasia playing the same build that Maro is playing. But Maro just does more damage, it feels like, and they're able to get more momentum as a result, whereas Method EU are a little bit more about kind of trying to set up crowd control, right? Like these Hammer of Justice punishes on Dispel, they're waiting for these specific moments, whereas Skill Capped EU just force it to happen, and they get tons of damage out as a result. So it's a bit of a playstyle difference in my mind between the two teams. Zuniaki, Thasia, and Chaz maybe a little bit more patient and trying to find that perfect moment, and that's why the game goes on a little bit longer than we see teams like Skill Capped EU that just want to push the pace.
All right, well, game number 2 here. It is Method EU already up 1-0 in Cowana Gaming on Hook Point.
All right, let's see how this one goes. Right now, Nerdage, Kara, Tana taking the triangle melee position. They really don't want to push into the open, I guess, at this point. They're just going to be poking with some Frostbolt. Zuniaki going to have an opportunity to build up some damage. And definitely not the worst start here, as I really feel like as dampening goes up, it's better for the Shadow Priest Mage. All of a sudden, the Retribution Paladin can't sustain himself, and the Shaman really struggles to heal. Hammer of Justice now onto Kara, an instant Dispel. Let's see, I'm curious to see if Thasia has switched up his build at all, or if he is still going to be going with that Pyroclasm. We'll really have to wait and see here. Still holding on to that Combustion, just waiting. And I feel like maybe Cowana Gaming feels like if they can hold on to their cooldowns, maybe dampening favors them. Really don't want to overcommit at this point in the game, but I'm not sure it actually plays into their favor. And yeah, Thasia will be switching up his build. Not really getting much value, so just a super short combustion, exactly what we saw Morrow run. There it is, Dragon's Breath on Tana. Setup does not get denied. He's managed to actually... he got storm bolted, did he not? I don't know how he actually got out of and got that polymorph, but they managed to find it. Combustion gets grounded. Beautifully done there by Tana. Just drops a grounding totem, and Thasia is really not going to get too much value from this initial combust. Maybe. Still, the damage is rolling. You wouldn't expect to see that, but looks like Cowana Gaming do manage to hold on. Full Hammer of Justice now onto Chaz, as Zuniaki is under pressure. Beautiful Hex there by Tana as well, just getting crowd control on all three members of Method EU.
Yeah, so far pretty good stuff here from Cowana Gaming, and Kara only having used his trinket so far in this game. He's looking pretty good, and he's actually running to the starting room. That is a very open field position. Do they have more crowd control? Here's the Mind Games coming in, connecting as well. There's the Silence. They actually took away the Reflect there on Tana to land that Silence, but Kara quick to dispel it there as well, and Kara actually surviving despite that kind of strange positioning right there. Not exactly where you want to be running, but it worked out for them. They didn't have to trade anything, just the Blessing of Sanctuary, which is an extremely short cooldown there for Kara, and that's the optimal time to use it anyway. Now Zuniaki going to be here under fire. You can see Kara here looking for some pressure here. He's got these wings active with that proc. Not able to get too much done though. That Sky Fury Totem was down as well. Zuniaki repositioning far, far away. Chaz actually sat down for a drink there for a second, but it looks like they are going to be completely fine here. Tessia looking for some crowd control, gets interrupted by a Hammer of Justice. Tana just avoiding those polymorphs, doing a great job so far, just avoiding this mage and keeping his teammates completely and utterly safe here. You're going to get a Dispel there onto Nerd Rage Polymorph, which means a full Hammer of Justice now onto Kara. And this is also what we kind of mentioned in the pre-game, how Method like to play around the Dispels. They like to play a very kind of coordinated, calculated aggression playstyle, whereas we saw Skill Cap play a more just kind of zug gameplay in the same matchup. And now once again we're going to see a CC here on Tana. Kara going to run to the pillar, survive that one, and now once again here Cowana Gaming looking to get aggressive here, but Zuniaki also positioning super well defensively.
Yeah, Thasia not taking that adaptation is getting hexed quite a lot, and now even targeted. They're trying to punish the ice block out of crowd control. We did not see this from the previous Reload Esports attempting to go after the mage, but once again Hammer of Justice punishing the Dispel, but no cooldowns to really combo with it. Maybe just trying to bait or force through for a legendary proc from Kara without committing cooldowns, but they don't manage to get it either way. Tana repositioning. Mana is going to, I think, be the name of the game here. Is Chaz going to be able to get drinks? That Earth Elemental was smacking him, but now the Earth Elemental left him, so he may be able to duck around the corner of this fence and go for a drink. And with Zuniaki running Void Elf, it looks like they want to use Void Elf to escape really far away and then drink during that time. So if Zuniaki can bait them to chase, it's going to be an excellent time to do it. But Chaz actually gets stunned up here. Kara polymorphed and shut down, unfortunately. Not able to connect to Zuniaki whatsoever. Now in a Dragon's Breath, trying to wait and use this Blessing of Freedom. Goes for a Divine Toll. Procs on Zuniaki, but now he's in a stun. Kara just not able to get to Zuniaki at all. Really like Zuniaki's positioning here, although Nerd Rage is kind of owning him at the moment. Chaz pops Avenging Wrath. His team should go to full, and he's going to do a lot of damage as well with Avenging Wrath. Double Dragon's Breath onto both Nerd Rage and Kara during the intervene. Frost Nova, just trying to crowd control, maybe buy time for Chaz to drink, and that is exactly what Chaz is doing here. So Zuniaki's going to use Door of Shadows and try and use mobility and avoid damage. Chaz drinks to full, and that's quite difficult to do on hook point, exactly when dampening started. So that drink, I think they're going to need probably another one in the future, judging by the pace of this game at the moment. But if they set that up again, I feel like they're going to be able to pull it off. They're going for the kill. Triple crowd control. Tana trinkets, grounds it, and manages to buy time for his team. However, without Medallion, he is now a swap target.
Yeah, and let's see if they can do it. Kara's still on the back foot just a little bit. The Ascendance does manage to top him off. They're still continuing to just chase down Zuniaki, trying to get that damage rolling. Asia just using his combustion, resetting it right now. Big Divine Toll, but gets healed through quite easily, and Kara now forced to kind of reposition away. A Ring of Frost cuts him off, though. Nicely done there by Thasia with the polymorph on Tana. Kara is completely isolated. The Hammer of Justice catches a big heal on himself. Nerd Rage now finally coming back to try to disrupt Thasia just a little bit. They make a big swap. They're going to be chasing him down. That life grip from Zuniaki keeps him alive. Still no ice block for another 40 seconds in the game, but I feel like it's unlikely we do see Thasia go down. But about 6 minutes elapsed into the game, 7% dampening, and as this game goes on, it gets more and more difficult for Cowana Gaming. They can spend less time in the open, and the more they're behind the pillar, the more Thasia gets to reset his combustion, and that just means every time they are in the open, they're under a huge threat.
Yeah, and we're going to see once again here, this is a good opportunity for Chaz to look for a drink, and he's going to take it. You can see already they're just spam pulling Nerd Rage. Chaz actually does end up canceling that drink. Doesn't want to take any risks there. Zuniaki could get bursted down, and here we go. Big combustion push here, presumably to just stop Tana from trying to drink, trying to create some pressure here. Tessia knowing that anytime Tana goes for drinks, you just got to get pressure as soon as possible to stop him, or you're going to make sure that you can make your way over there and stop him that way. And this time around, it is going to stop the drink, but once again, it's going to be Chaz actually being the healer that expends more mana. But like we kind of mentioned in the previous game, the longer this game goes, the more deadly Zuniaki's dots are going to be, and slowly but surely that pressure is just going to keep going in favor of Method here, and we're going to see big bursts coming out here. Zuniaki finally going to be forcing out a dispersion here, so finally a bit of a victory here for Cowana Gaming. And now look at Chaz. Is he going to sit down for a drink? He's sitting down. He gets a drink. And there's a nice mind control by Zuni. Oh, no. Nerdred was going to stop that drink right there. He gets Psychic Horror. He gets mind controlled. Kara is in a Ring of Frost. Chaz going to get a Hammer of Justice there as well, because the spell is... actually, Tana's in a Polymorph, so... and into a Silence as well. Method... with that one Psychic Horror timing right there onto Nerd Rage, they're able to get full mana and get a setup out of it as well. And that's exactly what they needed to do now. They had the mana lead. We're getting to that 20% dampening mark as well. And things are just looking great so far for Method EU. The only thing is that Zuni doesn't have his dispersion, so he could get one shot if he's not careful.
All right, let's see if they can keep it going here. Zuniaki repositioning with Door of Shadows. Tana in a Polymorph. Big attempt for Kara's life. Nerd Rage intervenes over. Spell reflecting and fearing the mage. Nerd Rage trying to disrupt the chain here and buy time for his team, and he has done it. Now going into battle stance on Zuniaki while Chaz is stunned up. Zuniaki, not with much to trade here, is a bit desperate, trying to reposition away from the Artusian Paladin, but big Final Reckoning connects. Chaz managing to recover with Avenging Wrath. Now Kara needs to likely retreat. He wants to stay on target, but no Divine Shield. It's kind of scary. Thasia's currently hexed, so is Kara going to make the push to Zuniaki here or retreat back to his Shaman? Looks like he's doing a bit of both, taking the aggressive pillar here, waiting for Tana to reposition. Rune of Power by Thasia, trying to build up a bit of damage, maybe bait a cooldown. Dragon's Breath Polymorph, Nerd Rage charges over and manages to disrupt the Polymorph incoming on Tana. Kara ducks for cover. Kara really just needs to stay alive until the next Divine Shield, but 3 minutes is a long time when you're already 9 minutes into the game. It looks like Kara will use the Medallion and Sanctuary to break Tana out of this incoming attack. However, Tana's mana isn't looking that great either. Kara's trying to lead the charge here with an Avenging Wrath proc, trying to take out Zuniaki, but Zuniaki is able to escape. Chaz is stunned, Thasia is stunned. Master Spell does land on the hammer though, and do they have enough damage to take him out? Kara just can't stay on target at the moment. Managing to pull back for a moment. Tana recovers. Chaz, these drinks have been critical. Usually you're not able to drink on this map, but because Chaz was, his team is actually in a confident position. As we see Nerd Rage leaping over to Thasia. They're getting on top of the mage, trying to push the mage away, but then when they push back, Chaz just drinks. Nerd Rage has to use Door of Shadows to stop the drink, and then a charge to try and reconnect, but that's a lot of his mobility gone that he can't use to attack one of the casters. They're going after Thasia with a double stun lock. They get Medallion from Thasia, however Power Infusion and Combustion are up. There's still no Divine Shield for 2 minutes. Nerd Rage and Tana both need to get ready. Combustion's going to pop on to Nerd Rage. Will he survive with the dive by the sword? And it looks like he will with that Earthen Wall Totem. However, Kara still no Divine Shield. Power Infusion is still rolling for a few moments. Kara's just trying to heal up Nerd Rage and allow him to tank that incoming attack. Overwatch Reflect on the Polymorph. Thasia goes for it again and actually gets the full Polymorph. Chaz could even drink at this moment in time if he really wanted to, but Kara goes for Divine Toll. Chaz is going to bop the Divine Toll hit, rather saving mana for cooldowns and then retreat back behind the fence line. If Kara and Nerd Rage charge in to stop Chaz from drinking, I mean, they may die. Nerd Rage leaps in and charges in despite that to try and stay on target, but there's still a sacrifice. There's still a cauterize. There's still an ice block. Their warrior now with no dab of the sword, no divine shield for 40 seconds. They're both at half health, 35% dampening. They stun Chaz. They're trying to stay on target, but Kara just can't. He's caught out in midfield. Tana trinket links this incoming crowd control attack. And now with no medallion, it's looking pretty dicey. Zuniaki pre-fades the incoming damage there. Nice play by Zuniaki, baiting Kara out into the open here. If they can punish a polymorph dispel, it could be it for Kara. 12 seconds away from that divine shield. Can they survive to that point here? 7 seconds to the divine shield. Kara's opting to just retreat away from the fight. Still 3 seconds away. Shielded Vengeance should be more than enough. I like running away from the Shadow Fiend. That's a very powerful cooldown from the Priest class. You generally don't want to be charging into a fight while that's down, and Kara actually just tanks some mind games straight to the face while Shadow Fiend is out. He's down at half health, and Tana has to heal him at 40% dampening. This is likely to cost the rest of his mana. Nerd Rage is getting torn apart as well. They go for that double stun lock again, trying to take out the mage, but Deja is able to blink away. Zuniaki with these mass dispels, totally shutting down that double stun, and now Kara has to divine shield, although it is for the combustion, so I feel like this is more than a fair trade, and it does allow him some uptime to get pressure. Deja alter times back into the battle. Chaz goes for divine favor, gets a big heal. Perhaps somehow, some way they pull this off, but there's so many cooldowns left.
There is a lot of cooldowns left. Chaz forced to trade it out, though. Dampening gets very unstable for both of these teams. And looks like Kara will be forced to go back to the pillar, but Deja, if he can just sit out and get the shifting powers off, get the fireballs out, that is a very threatening for Nerd Rage and Kara. A little bit of damage here onto Zuniaki, but Chaz, his mana still looking good. Dampening is high at this point, 45%. Tana is going to start really feeling it on the Shaman. He actually gets interrupted. Nerd Rage going incredibly low, but the Ascendance comes in at the nick of time. But if you look, there is no Spearling Totem for another 2 minutes. There's no Ascendance for 3 minutes after this. If Zuniaki doesn't throw, and he doesn't, trades out the Dispersion. They should actually blinking in. I don't even think they need crowd control at this point. Just sit back and attack at this level of dampening. I don't think Tana can handle that kind of pressure to get the Ice Block for free. And I feel like Method EU, they're making some weird plays here. I think they could play a little bit safer at this particular moment, but maybe they just want to go for it as Tana has no cooldowns, but they just super vulnerable. And Chaz doesn't have many emergency cooldowns to actually keep him alive. Cowana Gaming, they might be able to do it if they can hold on a bit longer.
They need to just get enough pressure to force Kara and Nerdridge back to the pillar and then get a drink. If they get that, the game is in the bag. They get the bubble here of Chaz, and they're looking to go do the opposite here, try to close out the match. Tessia is on 1%. Kara is going to trigger here. He's got the combustion rolling. Nerdridge is all over him. Alter time, fear onto Chaz. Tessia needs to go back in time here. He kites beautifully here with the Volpin as well, and still so much crowd control onto Chaz. Finally, Tessia is going to be able to survive here. He gets gripped back by Zuniaki. Mind control coming out, gets interrupted here, and there's the damage, and that is going to be the seed as well. The seed is going to get scrambled, and that is going to be the game right there. Very nice kiting there by Tessia at the end there, but just too little, too late. Chaz with no real emergency buttons, with no real breakers, able to keep him alive, and that Divine Toll is going to be enough here to tie us up 1-1.
I really feel like Phasia kind of threw there. I mean, it's beautiful cutting at the end, but at that point in the game, you're 48% dampening. You have mana, you have cooldowns, like you had Ice Block and Trinket. And I just feel like blinking on top of Tana, who still has his Ascendance rolling on top of Kara, on top of Nerd Rage, there's just a big mistake because you really don't need crowd control to win at that point of the game. Just sit back, farm your combustion, attack, don't use your shimmers aggressively, don't trade out Ice Block unnecessarily. And I feel like Method EU is primed to win that game.
All right, Cowana Gaming tying that up 1-1 here in this best of 5 series. Cowana Gaming doing the impossible right now, taking over a composition that was a tough one to beat, and they were able to pull it off in game number 2, excuse me. Supatis, let's break down those moments there.
I mean, they just survived to the point of no return. Despite having no mana, they rotated their cooldowns out quite effectively to make it so it didn't matter that Chaz drank earlier in the fight. Chaz doesn't have any cooldowns. They proc Cauterize. Chaz is even feared having no cooldowns, so Thasia runs into the room. He's going to alter back, and then he Vulpins away from the Ret and the Warrior. and he's doing his best to stay away from the Ret Paladin and the Warrior using Vulpin, but simply put, at this point, Chaz has no cooldowns. You can look at it below his frame. What's he really going to press? He gets rooted out of line of sight, which was a little bit awkward. That didn't help him out at all either, but he just doesn't have any cooldowns. They're able to stay on target. There was no counter pressure, and it was just well done defensively on the side of Cowana. And, I mean, they can do that on these small maps, but big map, again, you're living on a prayer at 60% dampening that you can kill something. So if they've got something else, I think we saw DK Warrior from them as an attempt to deal with this. So maybe try the DK on a big map and try something different, because I don't think this is going to repeat itself on Tolvaron.
It'd still be a struggle though if they do go with a big map here on the side of Method EU. If they lock in something big, it's gonna be difficult for these guys no matter what, I feel like. But we're gonna be starting the draft process soon. Shortly, we'll see what Method EU decides to lock in and what Cowana decides to go with. What about you, Ben? Any thoughts on that?
I think we're going to see the exact same matchup, in all honesty, and Cowana Gaming is just going to try to, although dampening gets really scary for them, if Method EU overextends themselves like that, then they can really capitalize on that, and just one big Divine Toll, a little bit of uptime will allow them, an opportunity to win the game. So I don't really expect them to switch it up at this point. I feel like it's the same thing. They seem pretty comfortable in this matchup, although I don't think it's a favorable matchup. They can win it if Method EU trips up a little bit. So but on this map, it's not. I wouldn't say it's looking super great for them, because if Method EU just decides to run away, all they need to do is wait for a Psychic Horror, a Silence with Combustion, and they can get Divine Shield. And you just kind of rinse repeat that setup, especially in dampening. It can be really difficult for the Shaman to kind of deal with. So I think Method EU on this map, if we see the same comps, that is going to be looking incredibly good.
Yeah, I think so as well. We've got 10 seconds left here on the board for Cowana Gaming to lock in their composition, but there's a good chance that they're locking in that same comp. They already knew what they were going to play, but they're kind of just going over strategy right now. These guys have to be so careful in this matchup. Now it's going to be Method EU's turn here. Kind of know what they're probably going to be playing. Tolvaron Arena, I feel like this is going to be a dominant game number 3 for these guys. I mean, this is going to be no easy feat here for Cowana Gaming heading into this game. Method EU has been at the top for so long, so they're probably feeling the pressure right now. But Cowana Gaming, they've been playing together for quite some time. These are all very well-respected players in the European region. So, like you guys have already sort of iterated, I feel like this is something they could still pull off here. And it is best of 5, and it also is the upper bracket. So even if they lose this one, Cowana Gaming or Method EU, they have another chance to turn this around and gain even more points heading into that circuit, Zico.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, both of these teams are basically 100% qualified, but still, you want to get in. It's not only about the standing, but it's also about the momentum, right? Like, you want to be the team that won the most recent cup heading into the circuit, because then you're the team to beat. You're gonna know, okay, we can really do this. We've beaten everyone. We won, and having that confidence definitely gonna play a big role for you as a team, I think. And for Method, this is a situation they like to be in. They like to be that team that has all the momentum when they're heading into a matchup. And much like you guys, I expect to see the same thing here. Shadow Priest Mage, Paladin. Pretty standard stuff.
Yeah.
I think Tessia is probably going to keep playing the Kindling build as well, and just basically see the same last game, but this time on a better map.
And you're definitely right, with the momentum, as you were mentioning, because, even if these guys are both qualified for the circuit, the more points you get, the better situated you are in that bracket heading into the circuit series. Every team's going to play every team for that, and it's going to be, I think it's going to be really fun. So I'm curious to see how these guys perform in the circuit series as we head into that. But this is going to be the last cup that we're going to see here, just for cups and for point building here. So Method EU going to be locking in that same composition. We are going to be going into Tolvaron. Subatias, what is this game going to look like?
Really deep dampening. Get your snorkels, get your swim trunks, get your diving gear. We're going to the deepest depths of dampening. That last game went to 60% on a map that is supposed to be like anti-dampening. So on a map that's built for dampening, I think we might break records.
What is the record we're breaking?
What even is the record right now? I feel like it's 70 something.
No, I think it's in the 80s.
For Shadowlands?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
Shadowlands.
Shadowlands?
I don't
Oh,
know.
no.
We saw an 80?
That's high.
Did
I want to say it's like
we
68
did.
or something like that.
I know it was 80 for BFA. I don't know if we've gotten that high yet in Shadowlands. I'm not sure.
Haven't we?
Have we?
What about that? What about that game where Drainer played prop mage in a 2v2? I remember. Wasn't that?
That was
get
in the
to 80?
60s. That was still light dampening.
Was that only in the 60s?
I feel like that was light, yeah.
Barely
Light-
scraped
light
the
drizzle.
surface.
Just a light drizzle of damp.
All right, well, we're heading into Tolveron here. Game number 3. These teams are tied up right now. It is Cowana Gaming versus Method EU.
Okay. Well, I mean, they don't have any other choice. Ret Warrior's all they got, and it's likely their best odds, but they're going to attack closest wizard. So if Shadow Priest or Mage are closer to Tana, that's who they're going to go after. If they need to, they're just going to run behind the pillar because running out in the open is a bad idea as a Ret Warrior. And as a result of that defensive positioning, I think it will be difficult for Method EU to kill them prior to deep dampening. So unless we see something like the Pyroclasm again, which is what I'm refreshing my gear add-on to see, I think it will be quite difficult for them to close this game out early. And at the moment, yeah, you can see Cowana Gaming, I feel like they know that they need dampening a bit. They're going to attack the Shadow Priest. Asthasia's far on the right. Try and push the Shadow Priest back with a Wings proc here. But as soon as Thasia's in line of sight, Kara goes back to the pillar, and he's going to attack the Mage, try and run Chaz out of mana, trying to play an attrition game against the Shadow Priest Mage, and just keep attacking whoever's closer to Tana. So they push Thasia away. Now Zuniaki's closer to Tana. Tana's going to reposition to a pillar that's closer to Zuniaki. Nerdrage is still going after him in the midfield. Thasia's just getting ready, fireball after fireball. They bait out an Earthen Wall Totem, although Earthen Wall Totem not super effective in this particular matchup, and they do actually just reposition away from it anyways. Tana back at the pillar. Kara does not want to go out there at all. You can tell they're very afraid of the burst damage available from the Shadow Priest Mage, and because of that, it'll be a good map for Chaz to drink on. And as long as Chaz maintains his mana deeper into dampening, I feel like they can take this game. This is probably a 15-minute game where the Ret Warrior can win in a 15-second window of time. So for 14 minutes and 45 seconds, Cowana Gaming are losing. And then 15 seconds, maybe 13 minutes from now, if they can get the cooldowns from Chaz, they can win. But if they don't win in that window, then it's gone and they're going to get wiped away.
Oh, that doesn't sound very hopeful for them. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what they can do. I really feel like this matchup does come down to Method EU and how they decide to play it. If they play too aggressive in the match, I feel like there is opportunities for Cowana Gaming where they can sneak in and get a quick ice block like we saw in the last game. If not, Method EU is going to be feeling very durable because there's only so much time Kara and Nerdrage can stay in the open that Tana can sustain them. And when you drop the Earthen Wall Totem and yeah, both Kara and Nerdrage immediately run out of it, that's a feels not so good there for Tana in that situation. But Kara's going to be immediately rotating back to the pillar as he was in a little bit of trouble, but Combustion's still available here for Thasia. He's actually playing Meteor this time, so really testing out those talents, those level 50 talents for the Mage and showcasing them in this series. But that Meteor is going to provide him a huge hit of damage when he does have that Combustion available, and that's where you can see someone get absolutely destroyed. But we'll see. Method EU still just trying to set up, just trying to push them back to the pillar, trying to force them away. Chaz is going to want to go for drinks whenever he can. Hammer of Justice does land, and it looks like they're not going to use Combustion. They've just been sitting on that Combustion for such a long time at this point. That was the setup. That was the full Hammer of Justice, but just opting to not pull the trigger with that just yet.
Yeah, maybe he's making sure that anytime Tana goes to drink, that's when he pops it. We're going to see. Or maybe the setup just didn't feel clean enough. We'll see what they end up doing here. So there's a Polymorph onto Nerdrage. And Chaz doesn't have his Hammer of Justice right now, but that's basically how a lot of these setups are going to look. Just Poly Nerdrage, he gets Dispelled, Hammer of Justice Kara, pop all CDs on him, maybe get a Silence on the healer, and that's about the best you can hope for, because both of these healers, they have a lot of distance to work with, so they can definitely avoid crowd control and stay away from the fight if they want to. But right now, Tana has crept up on that same pillar as Chaz, and I don't know if that's going to be necessarily good for him or not, because that means Chaz can just walk over and Hammer of Justice him anytime he wants to. But I think Tana has to kind of keep this positioning here so he actually can. Oh, nice. Did he ground a Hammer of Justice there from Chaz? No. Okay, so it was just the Kara using his Hammer of Justice there onto Chaz. Chaz still has his. There's no grounding available. Combustion was popped there by Tessia, but he gets shut down on it, and that was with PI as well. So really nice shutdown. Now finally the crowd control is going to land. The mind games are up on Kara, and he is ducking out of there immediately. Mind Flays coming out to slow him, try to keep him in Tessia's line of sight, but no more damage with that combustion means that Kara should be fine in this situation. Still a little bit more crowd control. Fear, DR Sheep coming out as well, maybe a Dragon's Breath as well. No more crowd control though, and that should mean that Kara should be fine, as well as Nerd Rage. And now Chaz just probably going to look for drinks and try to top off his teammates. And we can see these teams just trying to create something, but right now it's just not really possible for them as we enter that dampening stage, Sid.
Yeah, we have done it. We've hit dampening. Time flew by here in the sands of Tolvaron, and they're still going after Zuniaki at the moment with Earthenwall down on the Shadow Priest. Chaz is not looking great on mana at this position. He's actually caught in a stun lock here. They swapped to Chaz. Kara's going on a solo mission to try and take out the enemy Holy Paladin. Chaz going to retreat away out into the open. I can imagine he wants to drink on the opposite side of the map here as he's charged so far away from the battle. So Kara and Nerd Rage have a decision. Do we keep going in for the attack and just do damage, or do we jump on Chaz, try and stop his drink? What do we do? It looks like they're picking damage on the Shadow Priest, and Chaz comes back to the fight, not wanting to trade dispersion at this point in time. If they can somehow maintain the drink denial, they could win on mana. Tana pre-flesh crafting incoming crowd control, trying to look for hexes here, but Zuniaki's looking for a mind games. Both teams playing in each other's heads in terms of crowd control avoidance. Hammers down, combustion pop, big play here. How are they going to trade? They bop aggressively even onto Kara to try and finish the job here on their map choice, and Kara does ultimately trade Divine Shield. This was not a power infusion play, and Nerd Rage actually gets swapped to for a moment. Absolutely shredding them down. Zuniaki gets connected. He has to fade, but fade's a very minor cooldown in the grand scheme of things here. Now using Door of Shadows to escape to the corner. Chaz is stunned up. Cowana Gaming playing a bit more aggressive in this position, realizing, hey, combustion was just used. We need to get something done during this downtime.
Yeah, let's see if they can get that done. I mean, they're making a power play here on Thasia. The Earthenwall Totem does drop down as they continue to make a push. Zuniaki trying to force them back a little bit with a mind games play, but with no crowd control on Tana, he should be able to easily dispel that or ground it. Here's the silence, disarm. This is the setup we're talking about, which is so scary here for Kara. There was no combustion, but with combustion, that could have been the Divine Shield from Kara. So just want to see those kind of rinse-repeat setups where Thasia quite literally just runs away, blinks backwards the whole game, resets his combustion, and Zuniaki just waits for his cooldowns, sets it up with instant crowd control, and they can burst down the Ret Paladin really hard. Those are the scariest moments in the game, and if we see that being played out over and over, and Method EU, I think, is going to be looking good in this series. Beautiful cross crowd control coming in from Thasia, trying to allow Chaz a moment to drink. So definitely something that we want to see Method EU set up, and something Chaz hasn't really been able to do so far. Nerd Rage and Kara have been doing a great job pushing in, making sure Chaz is constantly pressured in this match. They're actually making a swap on Chaz right now, but I don't think it's going to accomplish too much. He gets rooted on his Divine Steed as he's trying to cross the map. Nice play there by Tana. Let's see if Chaz can reposition and sit down for a drink. If at any moment in this game, especially at 16% dampening, we see Chaz go to full mana, that's going to be kind of lights out. I feel like that's when Method EU, they're going to get kind of an insurmountable lead in the match. However, if Cowana Gaming can continuously shut down these drinks, not allow Chaz to recover, they could still be looking good for this one.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of you hit the nail on its head right there, Van. I think Kara right now, he can't be too aggressive because he doesn't have that Divine Shield. So that means Nerd Rage has to stop the drinks, and right there he's going to get a freedom from Kara, and he is going to be able to shut down the drink. But as long as he moves out of range from his healer like that, he is going to be a susceptible target. He had to use his Die by the Sword, had to use his Trinket, had to use basically everything right there to stop that drink. And you can kind of tell right now what Method's game plan is. They just popped the combustion. Now Tessia just wants to spam fireballs here, trying to get something going, trying to get that combustion back. And as soon as he does that, then they can set up the same situation that we just saw here. Kara is going to have his bubble in about half a minute. So in about half a minute, he is going to be able to kind of leave this pillar and be a little bit more aggressive. But up until that point, it really is Nerd Rage and Tana's job here to shut down a lot of these setups here. They get a full sheep onto Kara, and Tessia is going for a Dragon's Breath Ring of Frost onto Tana. Tessia looking for that crowd control, that cross CC, but he just gets the Nova right there on Tana behind the pillar into a Ring of Frost. Can he get the Master Spell here? Wow, they do get the Master Spell. Can he get anything out of that? Maybe a Fear and a Silence onto Kara. They're looking for it. Zuniaki, can he get it? Doesn't look like it just yet. It is the art from the Dragon's Breath, but there it is. Full Fear, full Silence. Do they have the damage? There's the Disarm as well. Shadow Word Death could connect here. Tana might need to respond with something. He's going to use the Ascendance right there, keeping Kara alive. What an excellent chain of events here for Method EU, and that's all because of a Frost Nova. If you can get a Nova on a healer when he doesn't have Dispel behind a pillar like that, that's all you need. A Nova is plenty of time to get that CC and to force out Kara's bubble basically as soon as he gets it back off cooldown. So that means that Chas, once again, is going to be able to sneak away, go for these drinks, and as soon as he gets those drinks, then it's game over. And if they try to stop them, there's a risk of somebody on Cowana Gaming dying. So Method EU, they have them exactly where they want them.
If Cowana Gaming can live for 3 minutes and 30 seconds, they'll have that 15-second window where they can win. But living that long with no Divine Shield is going to be pretty tough here, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them retreat. But if they retreat, Chaz will drink, which slims up that window almost entirely, and that's exactly what Chaz is doing behind the pillar at the moment. Nerd Rage leaps into Chaz, stopping it, but Kara gets blasted. Kara just cannot leave the pillar. They're going to proc double Medallion on top of the Prop Paladin Legendary, double Psychic Scream. They could just close the game out. Nerd Rage intervenes over, stunning up Thasia, trying to stall for his team, but they actually all used their Medallions. There's no way. You've used Divine Shield, you've used all 3 Medallions. Chaz is ahead on mana by a significant margin. You leave the pillar, you start to die. Counterspell into Dragon's Breath. Polymorph. Will he land at full? Polymorph. This could be the end of the game. Kara is trying to retreat. Stuns the mage. Chaz is moving forward. Tons of damage. Kara can't escape. There's no link because they overlapped massively earlier on, and they're not going to make it to that 15-second window. Method EU move to match point.
Yeah, and I think at this point, I mean, Method EU, that matchup looked really good from them. They played to their win condition. They didn't take, unnecessary risks. Obviously, the large map helped them quite a bit, but I mean, we could see this go to a Game 5, potentially, where they would have the opportunity to pick a large map again, but I think for game number 4 here, there still is an opportunity for Cowana Gaming to kind of strike back, pick a small map, and see how they can do it. The question is, what map are we going to be seeing them go to? We can see here in the replay shortly kind of the final setups that led to that kill onto Kara, but yeah, Sid kind of mentioned it, just a bit of an overlap on defensive cooldowns, and it can be really difficult. I mean, you really have to stay mentally focused in a matchup like this, because if you do overlap, that's going to be the end of the game. You really can't afford to be making any of those kind of mistakes.
Yeah, definitely, Ven. It just goes to show how tough this competition is, how quickly these players find those holes, find those mistakes, and capitalize on them. But Method EU is going to be winning game number 3 here. Like Sid already said, match point for them. So if they win this next game, they win this series, sending Cowana down to that lower bracket. We can see the match results right now. I wonder if we don't have a replay for this one. So, Supatias, why don't you break down how that final kill happened?
They all used Medallion to get out of crowd control, and then 10 seconds later, they put everyone in crowd control, so they couldn't heal anyone, and they died. So I think this is the point where they all use their. You can see on the left, Tana has Medallion, Kara has Medallion, Nerd Rage has Medallion. That's really good. Each one of them can basically stop the enemy team from attacking. But right here, Kara trinkets, Tana panic trinkets because of Thasia's combustion damage, and Nerd Rage even trinketed because he was stunned behind the pillar. So just immediately right there, they've basically lost the game. If you press all your Medallions at the same time against the Fire Mage team, you've may as well just /AFK, forfeit out of the match, because it's almost immediately afterwards that you'll be punished. Here, Thasia doesn't get faked out by Fleshcraft. He interrupts it, then Dragon's Breath, so he's not immune. Then polymorphs. Tana can't heal anymore. Lands Ring of Frost on Nerd Rage. Nerd Rage can't stun or intervene. Kara's all alone. Mind games. He can't heal. He's just going to get absolutely destroyed. They just immediately punished that 10 seconds after it happened. It's a mistake that you can't make, even though the damage is really scary and it's really bursty, you know, it's up there. But if you press your medallions all at the same time, it's going to be over against a very skilled team like this.
Mm-hmm. And now we're going to be seeing Cowana pick their map choice here. If they decide to go for another small map like we saw them do on Hook Point, what do we want to see Method U do differently, Zico, if they want to secure this next victory?
Well, on this map, run around at the bottom part, kind of use the outskirts of the map to be able to kind of make it a little bit bigger, to extend it a little bit. And then for them, it's the same thing, right? It's a little bit harder here for Chaz to get drinks, so he can't really threaten to get drinks the same way, but they still have a lot of crowd control, so they can just set up some big kills, get some, they're going to have an easier time landing fears, and usually, in my experience, smaller map just means both teams have to be a little bit more aggressive. If both teams are more aggressive, then you can still set up those same win conditions. If you are Method EU, just play aggressive, try to trade effectively, and if you get to a situation where Kara doesn't have his bubble, Tana doesn't have his trinket, well, go and drink. There's not really much that anyone on Cowana Gaming can do about it, because you're going to have that same similar win condition regardless of how big the map is. I think the biggest thing for Cowana Gaming is just they're going to have more pressure. They're going to be able to just do more damage and potentially catch somebody off guard or burst somebody down before they can even react on a map like this, for sure.
Yeah, we're going to find out shortly here who is going to come out on top for this series. Cowana Gaming locking in their composition. Going to stick with that same comp that we've been seeing them run. So it's a repeat of basically game number 2. They were on Hook Point. We saw both of these comps here. Cowana Gaming locking in that smaller map. So last time we saw this matchup for game number 2, it was Cowana Gaming that came out on top. So maybe Method U can implement that stuff that Zico just mentioned. Ven, do you have any guesses to who you think this is going to go to?
I really feel like this is going to still go to Method EU. I mean, the small map is better for Cowana Gaming, but I still feel like if Method EU just plays it properly in terms of positioning and forces Cowana Gaming to overextend to get any kind of pressure rolling, it's just the ball is in their court. And if they do what we saw in that last game where it's just damage, get out those instant crowd control setups, you force mistakes, and that's when you can capitalize and try to push in and actually close it out. But you don't have to be pushing in. Like we saw the one game that they did end up losing. We'll see here. Method EU still looking good in this series with this composition. Cowana Gaming is really going to have to find those opportunities. They're going to have to try to punish mistakes. And while they're looking for those opportunities, they need to give themselves as much time as possible by not overlapping defensive cooldowns, making sure someone is always in charge of surviving the next setup. Okay, the next time they go, Kara, it's going to be you. It's going to be your trinket. Okay, the next time, Tana, it's going to be your trinket. All right, Nerd Rage can maybe save with an intimidating shout. That's the kind of communication you need to have. And if they mess that up even at all, I think this is going to be an incredibly difficult matchup for them.
Yeah, and we're going to see, once again, Tana immediately getting polymorphed here with Spell Reflect up. Nerd is a little bit too slow. Big damage coming in. Kara might need to use his bubble immediately. That would have been a disaster. Nice grounding totem. Is going to ground the Hammer of Justice there. Chaz, a little bit slow there on the re-CC right there. Maybe he thought Zuni was going to silence or something, but yeah, a little bit miscommunication offensively there from Method. Means that what could have been a bubble in the opener instead just turns out to trade that Shield of Vengeance from Kara. And now here comes the preemptive Earthen Wall Totem, Dragon's Breath coming out, Tessia going for the Polymorph, and Nerd Rage. I swear, it felt like he was fast enough right there with the intervene. Maybe he's not playing Overwatch. Kara needs to be watching his HP bar here for a second, dropping quite low here behind the pillar. If Tessia can connect, there's the Meteor as well. Big damage coming out from Tessia and from Zuni with the Shadow Crash with the Meteor, but Kara once again, expertly so, holding on to his cooldowns despite that his Pro Legendary was down there, and that Pro Legendary definitely paying its weight in Soul Ash at this point, preventing him from having to use that bubble right there in that start. Means that despite that risky opener that we saw, they are going to be able to hold on the side of Cowana Gaming and look to get aggressive.
All right, let's see if they can close it out here. Stun Silence, but no crowd control on the other members, and Kara's able to line of sight. They swapped to Nerd Rage. Will Nerd Rage survive? Kara's going to activate Sacrifice, redirecting damage, and they're going to pincer up at the pillar here, or pair up at the pillar. Tana's out in the open. Are they going to go after Tana? They're mind controlling Tana. They're trying to stop him from stopping Chaz's drink. Chaz is already even drinking, not even 2 minutes into the game, realizing that's going to be a big deal. If there is any opportunities to get a sip, then you definitely want to take them. So a little water break for the side of Method EU, as they do anticipate this to go for the long haul. Tana going to duck off the side here towards the ramp behind Kara so he can line of sight Polymorph. Sunyaki's going to pull to the other ramp, and Tana will have to reposition likely to the boxes with Kara here. And Zunyaki's going to have to make a choice on where he wants to go here. Does he go towards the edge? Maybe Mind Control, Warrior, and Ret Paladin off the side. That could be an option, but they intercept, triple crowd control. Nerd Rage going to intervene over, try and stabilize. Will it be enough? No, it will not. He absolutely got erased. He got absolutely erased from the game. Method EU 3-1 to the finals on Sunday, and they're looking good.
Yeah. We'll definitely have to see the replay on that one, but Method EU, just like we saw from Skillcap EU, with the Shadow Priest Mage looking really good into that Ret Warrior. And it's just been, for these Ret Warrior teams, this has to be incredibly frustrating because it's been 4 cups in a row, basically, where this is kind of the only composition that's been beating them. Just this one composition they haven't been able to overcome, and they're going to be going down to the lower bracket as a result. But I'm afraid for the teams in the lower bracket because these Ret Warriors are coming down and they're not going to be happy with what just happened to them. See Kara here and what exactly happens to him. What crowd control was on Tana, how Method EU did set it up. But at the end of it all, it was a huge combustion that we saw Aphasia go with. Tana and Kara are kind of positioned behind the pillar right now. Kara tries to make a move, try to get some pressure rolling on Zuniaki. Sometimes you really don't expect it, but the Psychic Core, Dragon's Breath Sheep, and I think the Meteor lands. And that's it. I mean, all 3 members of Method U are coordinated with their assault, Dragon's Breath Sheep, the disarm, beautiful setup, and the game ends in 2 minutes.